This haunting sound was already 1,000 years old when Columbus first set foot on this continent. It's made by an ancient musical instrument, which is at the same time a beautiful piece of sculpture, an ocarina, shaped in the form of a gaily painted armadillo. The armadillo survived for us to play on today only because it was buried as an offering, perhaps by a long-forgotten musician, and so it remained safe from the countless wars and destructions which raged above it for hundreds and hundreds of years. But even though the history of the people who made this ocarina is obscured by the riddle of an unrecorded past, modern archaeologists have discovered a great deal about their ancient America. Today, we know in much detail how an elaborate complex of cultures developed in Mexico and Peru and spread out from there into large adjoining areas. Many tribes came and flourished into nations, only to decay in their turn. Many different cultures succeeded one another, destroyed one another, and gave birth to still others in a chain of history which reaches back some 4,000 years. We've learned, for example, about the Mochica, the Nazca, the Tiwanaku, and finally the all-conquering Incas in Peru. In Mexico, we know of the people of Tlatilco at the dawn of history, of the Olmecs, the Maya, the Zapotecs, the warrior Toltecs, the Mixtecs, the fierce Tarascans and the Totonacs who helped the Spaniards overthrow the Aztec warrior empire, only to have their own and all their neighbors' varied, imaginative cultures eradicated by the Spanish conquistadores. This is one of the most ancient kind of instruments in the New World, a conch shell taken from the Pacific Ocean and made into a trumpet. In later times, artists on the west coast of Mexico fashioned extremely realistic conchs out of clay, with all the intricate convolutions reproduced inside, so that their clay conchs gave an identical sound. Their great skill and fantastic imagination did not stop here. Their rich musical tradition developed a whole orchestra of sensitive instruments which so impressed one of the early missionaries in Mexico, the Friar Torquemada, that he wrote home to Spain, "One thing I can affirm truthfully, that not in all the kingdoms of Christendom are there as many flutes, oboes, sackbuts, trumpets, horns, and drums like in this land." Often, musical instruments were very delicately made works of art, like these whistles in the form of birds. Sometimes they made sculpture with built-in whistles, perhaps to represent their spirits. For example, here's a figurine of an owl. The same sensitive talent which produced this bird call figurine created an entire panorama of sculpture which brings to life every aspect of this ancient time. Warriors and priests, women and children, entire model houses, temples, ceremonial dances, and all the animals they knew. In this extraordinary personal art, we seem to meet these long-forgotten people face to face, person to person. The great gap of time and culture shrinks as we see their sculpture and suddenly discover that they must have felt and experienced life much as we do today. In W.H. Auden's words, in the Age of Anxiety, we know from their art that they dwelt at ease in their sown centers, sunny their minds, fine their features. Their flesh was carried on beautiful bones. They bore themselves lightly through life. They loved their children and entertained with all their senses a world of detail. Wave and pebble, boar and butterfly, birch and carp, they painted as persons, portraits that seem neighbors with names. One knows from them what a leaf must feel. This 12-tone panpipe, made some 1,500 years ago in the Nazca Valley of Peru, is a fine example of the fantastic array of pipes and whistles ancient artists made out of clay. Here's a flute, made in Mexico at about the same time. The ancient cultures of America contributed one instrument to the world's music, which today is used in one form or another by every dance band, the maracas. Here again, the highly sophisticated Indians were not satisfied simply with the original hollow gourds filled with seeds and pebbles. They made the most beautiful and intricate rattles out of clay, often in the form of people and animals, like this one. If we can judge by the many figurines of drummers archaeologists have uncovered, drums must have been the most widely used musical instrument in ancient America. This was a head drum made out of a hollow cylinder with a skin stretched across it, much like a modern drum. A more complicated sound is made by the wooden split drum of the Aztecs, the legendary Teponatzli. This is the sound which greeted Cortez when he and his small band of intrepid companions first met Montezuma, which called Aztec warriors to battle and set the rhythms for their great ceremonial dances. The noted young composer, Peggy Glanville-Hicks, has taken all of the instruments which you've just heard performing their single virtuosities and composed for them the Prelude and Presto for Ancient American Instruments, commissioned on the occasion of the exhibition Music Before Columbus. The premier performance of the Prelude and Presto is recorded on the other side of this record. You'll be interested to know that all of the themes and scales in the composition are ancient ones. The scale used is that of pre-Columbian music, and so are all of the other musical concepts, some of which still remain alive in the remote high valleys of the Peruvian Andes. The instruments themselves will be included in the exhibition Music Before Columbus at the Andre Emmerich Gallery during October. There you'll be able to play on these ancient instruments yourself and see many figures of musicians and dancers found in recent excavations.